unmuted.
This meeting of the City of Socorro City Council is setting to begin. Gentlemen, please remove your hats, and everyone please silence all electronic equipment. No disruptive behavior or outbursts will be tolerated, and violators are subject to ejection and possible prosecution. La Junta del Concilio de la Ciudad de Socorro está por empezar. Caballeros, por favor de quitarse las cachuchas, sombreros, y todos favor de poner en silencio todo equipo electrónico. No se va a tolerar ningún tipo de comportamiento prejudicial o revoltoso. A quien no siga esas reglas se le sacará y puede ser infraccionado.
It is 6:03 p.m. This meeting is called to order. Item number 2, Pledge of Allegiance led by Salvador H. Sanchez Middle School students, and a moment of silence.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'd like to say thank you to these wonderful students from Salvador H. Sanchez Middle School. And here's a token of our gratitude. Would Ms. Andrea Rodriguez Loya please step forward? Ms. Yasmin Salcedo? Ms. Lidia Duran? And Mr. Mateo Jimenez. Thank you. Item number 3, establishment of quorum.
Ruben Reyes,
Yes.
Cesar Nevares,
Here.
Alejandro Garcia,
Here.
Mayor Ivy Avalos,
Here.
Rudy Cruz,
Here.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Here.
Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Item number 4, public comment.
We have 2 speakers, Mayor. Héctor Ramos. Señor Ramos, tiene 3 minutos.
Muchas gracias. Tardaré menos. Mayor Councilors, de una forma u otra, bueno, voy a hablar en español. Si necesitan alguien una traducción, para pedirle a alguien que lo haga en inglés. Bueno, continuaré. De una forma u otra se puede observar que todos ustedes son buenas personas, es decir, diplomáticos para con todos los ciudadanos. Sin embargo, observando la forma en que se desarrollan las reuniones de la ciudad y las comisiones, muestran que hay alguna deficiencia para hacernos sentir que tienen la capacidad necesaria para analizar las políticas y directivas de esta ciudad. Tenemos consejeros y comisionados que no tan solo no tienen la capacidad de dirección, sino tampoco de supervisión. Dirigir con medias verdades es dirigir haciendo política, pero no administrar. Por eso se dice que la política es el arte de decir mentiras que parezcan verdad. Por favor, no hagan política, sigan administrando. Es necesario que se realicen cambios en la estructura del personal directivo y se nombren comisiones de supervisión. No debemos de tener funcionarios de medio tiempo, ni que tomen este trabajo como trabajo de horas. Necesitamos funcionarios que se dediquen en tiempo completo a esta ciudad, que verifiquen que se cumplan los trabajos que se tienen que desarrollar. Necesitamos que los consejeros y el mayor tengan una oficina propia donde puedan recibir a los ciudadanos, tener una comunicación directa, recibir respuestas a sus peticiones, así como analizar su trabajo. Uno de los derechos de los funcionarios es que la ciudad les proporcione los elementos necesarios para ejercitar su trabajo. Si el mayor requiere de transporte, se le debe facilitar un vehículo de los que están al servicio de la ciudad. Si no es suficiente el sueldo de los consejeros para que se desarrollen en su trabajo, por favor, efectúen un análisis para proponer cambios u obtener servicios adicionales que creo que es conveniente. La propuesta de tener un distrito de usos mixtos o múltiples fue innecesaria. Lo que se necesita son empleados que realmente hagan su trabajo correctamente, pensando en todos los detalles que implica la aprobación de un nuevo lote, el cambio del uso del suelo, la apertura de un negocio. Se hace todo muy apresurado. Parece que urge aprobar todo para demostrar que se está trabajando. Y yo creo que ese no debe ser el objetivo. Gracias.
Gracias.
Margarita Pérez. Mrs. Perez, you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here again to thank you in supporting Christmas Trails for Toys. We had a very good turkey basket drive-through. We gave out 80 baskets, and everything went really smooth. Thank you again for your support. Our next event will be December the 10th, which will be our toy giveaway. And of course, again, that's with pre-selected families. Thank you so much, and hope to, that we have your continued support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, those are all our speakers.
Mayor?
Yes.
Can I move items up 20, 28, and 29? Motion to move items 20, 28, and 29.
Second.
Ruben Reyes,
Yes.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia,
Aye.
Rudy Cruz,
Yes.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Planning and zoning, item number 20, discussion and action to approve an event permit for a Rosario a la Virgen de Guadalupe event at 10628 Shady Valley on December 3rd, 2022, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Mayor and Council, good evening. Carlos Gainar with Planning and Zoning. Good to see you all again tonight. This is an event permit, and as you know, any event that requires within the city of Socorro that it's expecting to have a large number of people requires city council action. As part of your backup, I've provided the details, but the event is a Rosario to the Virgen de Guadalupe to be held in front of the house within the street, the public right-of-way, at 10628 Shady Valley on December 3rd from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And they are expecting between 100 and 150 people at any one time. The other item that pertains to this permit is that the individual is requesting to block off the street, at least a portion that we've outlined in the map. So she is at where the address icon is at. So she's already spoken with her neighbor to be able to utilize that frontage of the street. She will provide, a little driveway access to the home, but the neighbor has spoken with her neighbors. They are expecting that the event to happen. And speaking with the individual, I did mention to her that she'll need to coordinate with PD and that she should have some, blocking off the traffic so that there's no traffic, obviously cars going through, and it maintains a safe environment for people. And there is a way for people to get through other parts of the home off of Shady Valley. So with that, happy to answer any questions, and I believe the individual is present.
I have a question for Mr.
Mr. Cruz?
Mr. Gannett, we can't see the rest of the street there, but is there an entrance and exit over on both sides for the neighbors?
Yes, sir, correct. So there is, it's not a dead end, so whether you're coming from this side or this side, there is, I think it's Thunder Road that
Okay.
is, that provides the access.
And I was gonna ask also, so when you say that they're gonna be responsible for blocking the road, is there a standard, I mean, is it just tape that they're using?
No, they would, what we advise them,
Barricade?
correct, the barricades, the sort of the large ones that you see when you block the street.
Okay, and all I ask is sometimes because I know that there may be some agreements, word of mouth. Can we get that in writing from the neighbor, just so
Yeah.
it's a lot cleaner and
Yes, sir.
and you know the neighbors they're all in agreement with it on paper.
Yes, sir. And so if it's approved, I'm happy to work with Ms. Barrera. Again, my conversation with her was that she would need to go and get quotes for the barricades. She would need to coordinate with PD. So I'm happy to help with all that coordination.
Ms. Villalobos?
And I'm sorry, did the other neighbors, were they informed every neighbor on that street?
Oh, my apologies, yes.
Ms.
Was
Col-
every neighbor on that street?
You know, Ms.
Uh,
Colombianos,
notified.
I don't know. What I was told is that the neighbors adjacent to her, so definitely the one where it would be blocked off, and then the other neighbor next to her. I think Ms. Barrera is here if she's, yes, pásale, señora.
Before she answers, can you answer, is that a requirement that we have here at the city?
No, ma'am. There's no requirement that you notify your neighbors. I think in this instance, because she is blocking off the street, it's advisable that she does, because again, you know, you don't want to surprise someone on the day of. But again, her house and the adjacent neighbors, my understanding that she did speak with it.
And I'm sorry, can we request that part of the approval, if it is approved tonight, that she sends at least a letter to every neighbor in that street
I believe so.
notifying them of the event?
Yes, ma'am. I think that could be part of your motion.
Okay.
Hola, ¿cómo está? Pásele, si quiere. Oh, okay. Pásele para, Ms. Colombianos, did you want to ask your question and then Ms. Barrera could answer it?
¿En Spanish? ¿En
Sí, por
español?
favor.
Sí. Lo que le estoy pidiendo es que si lo aprueban ahora en la noche, ahora este evento, si lo aprueban acá arriba, el concilio, que sea uno de los requisitos que cada vecino reciba una carta diciendo del evento y de qué horas a qué horas y de qué se trata, para que no los agarren de sorpresa y no digan que no me dijeron.
Sí, estoy de acuerdo. Ya hablé yo con algunos de mis vecinos. Esto es algo que yo tengo haciéndolo 12 años. Siempre solamente llevo una danza o dos danzas para la Virgen de Guadalupe. Pero yo siento como que es algo que hago yo de corazón. Hay mucha gente que ya perdió esta tradición. Y yo desde enero dije, bueno, este año no voy a estar sola, voy a buscar danzas. Si no viene gente, que vengan danzas. Empecé a buscar en Facebook. Muchas no me contestaban, otras sí. Como de junio para acá, empezaron todas a confirmarme. Dije, híjole, esto ya es mucho, son 10 danzas las que me confirmaron. Por eso dije, bueno, esto es algo que yo tomo con mucho respeto y tomo en cuenta la ciudad. Por eso es que vine a preguntar a ver si se podía un permiso y todo esto. Cuando vine a preguntar me comentaron que a lo mejor podría tener que cerrar mi espacio y todo. Busqué un lugar, es Apache Traffic Control. Me hicieron ya un mapa de cómo podrían cerrar. Yo no pensé que fuera a ser tan serio todo esto, pero igual la cantidad de personas que va a haber no es todas a la vez. Cada danza va 2 horas, 2 horas y media. Llegan unas, se van otras. O sea, no es todo el día toda la gente, es en ratitos. Pero igual y ya no le quise decir a nadie que no. O sea, sentí yo bien bonito, dije, bueno, pues sí, estoy de acuerdo en lo que dice, ya lo había pensado yo, dije, puede ser que haya en mi área otras personas de otra religión, pero igual y solo hacen el folleto al lado y no van. pero yo estoy de acuerdo en invitar a todos. La mayoría de mis vecinos en esa área, todos llevamos buena relación, todos nos hablamos muy bien. Entonces, solo a mi vecina de al lado izquierdo le pedí también su espacio de su casa. Dije, solo el de ella y el mío, y que topen para con la vecina de enfrente, y ya están de acuerdo también ellas. Saben que me ven cada año haciendo esto y están siempre ahí. Entonces es mi razón de estar aquí con ustedes. Aquí traigo yo ya el mapa que me diseñaron ellos. No sé qué les parezca esto.
Can I answer your question?
Está bien.
I'd like to rescind my motion to approve with the letters to the surrounding residents, please.
Second.
Ruben Reyes.
Yes.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Iván Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Thank you.
Llámeme mañana.
Para coordinar con estos, con el mapa y yo la llevo con él.
Moving on to Mayor and Council, item number 28, discussion and action to approve the appointment of Miriam Cruz to Board of Adjustments, Place 4, and remove her from Planning and Zoning Commission, Place 5.
A motion to approve?
Second.
Ruben Reyes.
Yes.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Iván Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 29, swearing in of newly appointed commissioner.
With your permission, Madam Mayor, may I proceed?
Yes, sir, go ahead, Judge.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council members. Ma'am, Ms. Cruz, please raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I, Miriam Cruz, do solemnly swear or affirm
I, Miriam Cruz, do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of the Board of Adjustments of the City of Socorro, Texas,
that I will faithfully execute the, I'm sorry, I'm not looking at it in front of,
the duties of the office of the Board of Adjustments of the City of Socorro, Texas,
the duties of the Board of Adjustment of the City of Socorro, Socorro, Texas,
and will, to the best of my ability,
and will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution and the laws of the United States and of this state,
the Constitution of the United States and, I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
and defend the Constitution and the laws of the United States
And defend the Constitution and the laws of the United States
and of this state.
and of this state.
Okay. Let's take the second oath, please. Please repeat after me. I, Miriam Cruz,
I, Miriam Cruz,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I have not directly or indirectly paid,
that I have not indirectly or indirectly paid,
offered, promised to pay,
offered or promised to pay,
contributed or promised to contribute
contributed or promised to contribute
any money or thing of value,
any money or thing of value,
or promised any public or employment
or promised any public or employment
as a reward to secure my appointment or confirmation thereof.
as reward to secure my appointment or confirmation thereof.
Thank you, ma'am, and congratulations, Commissioner.
Thank you, Judge. And thank you, City Council.
Congratulations, Ms. Miriam.
Mayor and Ms. Cruz would like to speak on item number 28.
I guess if I may, I just wanted to thank City Council. I'm hoping that through my attendance, I can help the Board of Adjustments meet quorum. In my last appointments in the other commissions, I've always had perfect attendance, helped make sure that we meet quorum. So I know that the Board of Adjustment has been struggling for months to meet, so I'm hoping that I can help in that way. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And Mr. Ramos would like to speak on this one as well. Hector Ramos?
It's too late, but Miriam, you did a very good job on the Planning and Zoning Commission. I'm sorry that you left. And I believe that it's better for us you be there than in the newly position, but my best wishes for you.
Thank you, Mr. Ramos.
Well, thank you very much. We're moving on to presentations. Item number 5, presentation by City Manager regarding October 2022 monthly report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm going to present October monthly highlights from our departments. Our Municipal Courts Department collected $46,473, received 176 citations from Socorro PD, 17 citations from Department of Public Safety, 48 animal control, and 46 ordinance violation citations. HR Department had a civil service meeting scheduled on October 24th, which was canceled due to the withdrawal of the former employer grievance. Therefore, we had no items on the agenda. The Ethics Commission meeting was held on November 16th, still working on the ordinance. We had 0 separations. We did have 2 new hires, Raul Estrada, labor, and Eduardo Moreno, equipment operator. Our Parks and Public Works Department assisted with the haunted house and fright farm event, repaired potholes at Passmore, Odin, Little Corina, Celedon, and Yululani. They fixed the water leak at Valles Park and continue with a systematic approach for weed control and maintenance of all parks. Our police department received 1,766 calls for service, made 56 arrests, and officers continue to attend trainings to keep up with compliance. City Clerk Department prepared agendas and minutes for meetings scheduled for October 12th and 20th, received 48 open records requests, responded to 11, prepared 4 publications, and had a bid opening on October 28th for the comprehensive plan. Our Planning and Zoning Department collected in the month of October $64,267, issued 332 permits, 43 registrations, 11 applications, and 56 letters. Code enforcement issued 226 notice of violations, cleared 160, and issued 51 citations. Animal control received 224 calls for service, 45 impounded animals, and 113 citations were issued. Recreations Department hosted Socorro Sundays on October 2nd, 9th, 16th, 23rd, and October 30th. October 28th, they had their fright farm. October 31st, they had the senior Halloween day and the Haley Parade and Calavera Judging Day. October 19th, there was an open house for a citizenship class. They also hosted a social media training. They did 820 senior meals were delivered and 48 welfare calls were conducted. They had HLC meeting on October 11th, 2 presentations, 4 approved items, and 3 tabled items. They also kept up with all social media platforms, media inquiries, and press releases. Our IT department attended training for Acela software, reorganized of IT storage room in preparation for server room, installed new Cat6 wiring for the new mechanic shop and office, new switch installation for art building at Rio Vista, and troubleshooted all IT-related issues. Our grants department. Grants administration held quarterly grants meeting with all city departments with active grants. ARPA finalized project budgets and details for 27 ARPA projects totaling $9 million to be implemented across 6 city departments to address the public health and negative economic impacts of COVID-19. Economic Recovery coordinated small business support meetings on October 3rd and the 5 C's of Credit Workshop on October 26th. Assisted 5 small businesses via financial assistance through the ESBRA program. And transportation continued to administer support invoicing for TechStop. Those are the highlights for the month of October. Do you all have any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 6, presentation on the launch of the Socorro Business Hub, created by Startup Space in coordination with the Economic Recovery Office.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Jose Quiñones. I'm really glad to be here and let you know about the launch of the new app. It's called the Socorro Business Hub, and we really want to thank you all for supporting this. Today we launch the Business Hub. This Business Hub is the first digital platform in all of West Texas, for that matter, all of southern New Mexico as well. What we want to be is we want to be able to offer something to the businesses of Socorro, to residents of Socorro, for them to be able to use the resources that this app brings to them. Businesses in Socorro will be able to look online and connect using this app and look at all the resources that are available here in the El Paso region. So everyone you can mention, SBA, SB, the Small Business Development Center, Project Vida, Lift Fund, People Fund, they're all in this app. And what's great about it, it also gives them a knowledge center. So if they're looking for something related to business, whether they're launching a business or whether they're looking for different type of funding, it's all available at their fingertips. They don't need to be calling people. It's available there 24/7. So we're very proud to be here offering this to residents of Socorro. Tomorrow morning, we will start launching this on our, using our social media as well as our newsletter via MailChimp. In your packet, you'll find the flyers. We now have them both in English and Spanish. So I think the one that's on your, that was added on to the agenda are in English, but we also have them in Spanish. And starting tomorrow, the flyer will be going out both in English and in Spanish. So we're just launching this. We're going to continue to push that forward. This is just part of our support structure where we're trying to make our small business recovery strong so that residents and businesses in Socorro can tie in to what's happening, the technology world, the world that we now live in. You need to be digitally involved. I'm going to be doing a lot of one-on-ones with folks. If I get a call, obviously if they want to learn how to register, but it's real simple. It's real simple. All they got to do is just click on this QR code that's there, and it gets them to a page for them to register in. And it takes just another click for them to fill out the profile, and they'll be able to look at what's available online. Do you have that QR code or the flyer on so folks here can see it? Okay, yeah, if you can, if not, no, don't worry. With that, I'll open it up to questions.
Any questions?
Yeah, I have one.
Mr. Cruz?
It's not really a question, it's just a statement. I appreciate the hard work that you all have done and the time that you have taken to really sit down and plan this out and strategize and identify the weaknesses that the city has had over a long period of time when it comes to developing the small business. I think that what you guys are creating now is what has already existed in the city, the county, for so many years. It's just that we haven't been able to create our very own version of it. But this is exciting to see that you guys are, we're the first city in West Texas to use Startup Space. It took me 20 seconds to register. I did it just for fun, right? But I appreciate that, and I hope that you guys can continue using the small businesses here and promoting them for the breakfast, because I think that's a really good way to bring in the small businesses for the networking events. And that's it. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, it's available there, so you can just take a snapshot. Anybody that's here, you feel free to connect on it. If we've got over 750 businesses now on our mailing list, and so it's going out to a lot of businesses across Socorro. There's probably a few that sneaked in or from other adjoining communities, but we go through that, we vet that list to make sure if they don't live here, at least that they own a business in Socorro. Okay. And thank you for your support. We cannot continue without support. All ears. Anytime my office is open to listening to you and picking up on ideas. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Moving on to consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
Ruben Reyes,
Yes.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Yvonne Colom Villalobos.
Yes. Moving on to regular agenda. Public hearing and ordinance. Item number 10, public hearing of an ordinance to allow the rezoning of 2605 Darrington Road, being Lot 7, Block 1, Clint Venture Commercial Subdivision, Unit 5, amending Socorro, Texas from unclassified to C2 General Commercial, and approving a conditional use permit to allow for a trucking company and repair shop. It is 6:33 p.m. Public hearing is now open. No, this is part of consent. As there are no speakers, public hearing is now closed at 6:34 p.m. Item number 11, second reading and adoption of an ordinance to allow the rezoning of 2605 Darrington Road, being Lot 7, Block 1, Clint Venture Commercial Subdivision, Unit 5, amending Socorro, Texas, from unclassified to C2 General Commercial, and approving a conditional use permit to allow for a trucking company and repair shop.
Mayor and Council, good evening. Carlos Gainar once again. So this is a rezoning on those areas north of I-10 that are still unclassified. And as you know, as they're coming in, we're starting to bring them in for rezoning. As part of the background, again, the current zoning is unclassified. It's about 1 acre in size. The address is 2605 Darrington Road. Future land use map for the city of Socorro has this as light industrial. And the land use, proposed land use, as was read into the record, is for a trucking company and repair shop. So that requires a rezoning from unclassified to C2, and then on top of that, the conditional use permit. Staff is recommending approval, and the PNC voted to approve on October 18th of this year. Here's the location map. So again, Darrington Road, north of I-10. Here's the zoning map. So there are other M1s surrounding it. That area does have some M1, some M2, some commercial areas, and still a lot of parcels that are unclassified. Here's the picture of the property, and then the aerial. And as is required by state code, we did notify the public within 200 feet of this property, and we have not received any comments or input from the public. And then again, the summary of the request is to rezone from unclassified to C2, and then the conditional use permit to allow the trucking company and repair shop. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Mayor, I have a question.
Mr. Cruz?
Mr. Gainar,
Yes, sir.
when P&Z votes on items like these and they get approved, and then from there, council votes, and then we approve. Let me ask you this.
Yes, sir.
When unclassified property turns into commercial, whether it's light or medium or heavy,
Yes, sir.
there may be some changes that the property owner has to make in order for the property to be zoned correctly. And what I mean by that is maybe some type of fencing or anything of that nature. Do we go back and do we automatically grant them, the permit, like, hey, you've been rezoned already, you're classified now, you can start operating? Or do we provide them, do we grant them permission under the new zoning application to now operate, or do we follow up with them and say, hey, okay, you had to make all these changes and stuff like that to bring them up to
Yes, sir. So once you vote on it tonight, the parcel becomes whatever it is that you're rezoning. In this case, it goes from unclassified to C2, with your action. What happens, Mr. Cruz, then is that now it's the first step out of several. So this is the first step. The next step now is that the applicant then comes in with construction drawings, with, in this case, because it's a repair shop, they're gonna need a garage. So we review that as a project. They can't do that because they don't have the zoning. So many times what happens is, and people don't know, they might come in with their construction drawings. Hey, I want to start my business. Well, you can't because you don't have the zoning for it. So you have to step back a little bit, do the rezoning, and then now you can move forward. So in this case, I believe that the gentleman will be bringing in all the new development, and all the things that come with the construction of the project.
Right.
And at that point, we check rock walls, we check ponding, we check square footage, we check the setbacks of what's required.
And the only reason I ask is because I see that it's gonna go beyond a trucking company. It's also a repair shop.
Correct.
So there's gonna be some chemicals
Yes, sir.
during, and so the city has to, keep them up to standard code when it comes to the throwing away of all those types of chemicals.
Yes, sir. That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Ruben Reyes,
Yes.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia,
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Yvonne Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 12, public hearing of an ordinance to amend Chapter 46 zoning, Article 5 supplemental use regulations, Section 46-634, signs by modifying subsection 24. It is 6:39 p.m. Public hearing is now open. Would anybody like to speak on this item? As there are no speakers, public hearing is now closed at 6:40 p.m. Item number 13, second reading and adoption of an ordinance to amend Chapter 46 zoning, Article 5 supplemental use regulations, Section 46-634, signs by modifying subsection 24.
Mayor and Council, once again, Carlos Gainard. So this is a staff-initiated request to City Council for amending the sign ordinance. So as you all know, and I mentioned the last time that I spoke about the parks, that what zoning regulates is the aesthetics of a community, right? The reason that signs look the way they look is because that's what is required. The reason that landscaping looks the way it looks is because that's what's required. Setbacks, parking, right? So this is, the City of Socorro currently has a sign ordinance that regulates signage. But what was happening is, I mentioned to the Planning and Zoning Commission on Tuesday, is that if you look at the zoning code right now, when it pertains to signs, there are very specific regulations for C1 and C2, right? It tells you exactly what you need to do. But what it doesn't have are regulations for the mixed-use districts like the ICMUD and then now the GMU. And it doesn't have them because those are fairly new zoning districts that whenever, whomever updated the ICMUD didn't update the signage regulations. So what is starting to happen, as you can imagine, with the Socorro Logistics Center, is that we're now starting to get phone calls for people that are going to do the construction on the commercial side saying, hey, well, what is landscaping? What is the signage? And so when I was fielding these phone calls, there's nowhere where I could dictate to them, well, this is what you need to do. And so what this does is that it provides regulations for the mixed-use districts, again, the industrial commercial mixed use, and then the general mixed use that you voted on last time that we met. And so what we are proposing are the following. So again, anybody that wants to come in and put a sign in a mixed-use district would have to do the following. So 1 monument sign per lot and per dedicated street frontage. Size would be 80 square feet maximum. The support structure is not part of the face of the sign, so you would still be able to, have like a podium where the sign would go on top. Height would be a maximum of 15 feet, and that does include the support structure. Locations would be not closer than 5 feet from the property line or the site triangle, so you don't want it too close where people can't get out of the parking lot or out of the driveway. The wall signs, so again, signage includes the monuments, pole signs, wall signs. And so you would be allowed one wall sign per dedicated street per occupant with a 50 square feet maximum and may not project more than 18 inches beyond the face of the building or project beyond the corner of the building. And then the wall sign shall not interfere with building fenestration or architectural integrity of the building. And then no blinking or flashing lights are permitted for any sign. Neither direct nor reflected light from any light source shall create a traffic hazard or distraction to motorists. And then the final one is that no pole signs would be allowed. And I'll show you the difference between what a pole sign looks like and a monument sign looks like. And so this is essentially what our current ordinance would allow. And next slide, please. And so you see that a pole sign is what it is, right? There's a pole and then there's a sign on top of it. And the maximum, I believe, for our ordinance is 25 feet. And so so just to clarify, this would still be allowed in C1s and C2s. But for the GMUs or the ICMUDs, the next slide, the signage would look like this, right? Much more beautiful, much more dignified. It doesn't create, the aesthetics of it is smaller. And I think that's the kind of design that you want, especially in the Socorro logistics, where you're going to have a lot more better landscaping, better signage, better street signs. And so that is what we're proposing with this ordinance. We did review it with the P&Z. They did vote to approve, and staff is recommending approval.
Mr. Garcia?
Mr. Galinar.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. During the P&Z meeting, you mentioned that we need a third party to go into, I think, investigating some signage things. I didn't pick up what we needed that for. Can you tell me why?
Yes, sir.
Or what else we need to do?
Yeah, so I think it was Ms. Cruz that asked the question, why can't we apply this citywide? And my response to her was that, one, I think there's an urgency on our part, because I don't want to start getting sign permits and then we don't have the regulations in place. So this one was done expeditiously to try to get that passed, voted on. So next week or tomorrow, when somebody comes in, hey, listen, these are what you need to do. I think that we do need to review our sign ordinance, our landscaping ordinance, which Mr. Reyes has asked us to do, and this council has asked us to do, along with a lot of other stuff, right? But I think that requires a little bit more manpower than what we have. And part of one of the to-do things one of our to-dos to do for 2023 is to revisit and revise our zoning and subdivision ordinance. So that was a comment, that I think we need a consultant, third party, to do a full review of our sign ordinance, to give us best practices, much more of the things that you see that I'm proposing. And I think, as Jim would attest, when you get into the sign regulations, it triggers all sorts of really interesting reaction from developers, because they want big signs, they want flashing, right? The more studies have shown that doesn't necessarily work, but it gets into all these other First Amendment rights issues. But that was essentially what I was saying.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Cruz?
Mr. Gainar, for the purpose of placing signage like this in cities right away, should the city decide to place a sign for informative purposes or reasons and stuff like that, does the city need to adhere to these same rules?
It does, sir.
So
Yes.
then how can you have an informative sign without it flashing or having moving, lights? Because that's when these lights are able to project the information. That's why I'm asking, like,
Yes, sir.
we're going to set the parameters for businesses, but then should the city want to, place signage for our residents here to inform them of any type of events or maybe traffic or anything like that? Do we need to adhere to those very same rules?
So you would, Mr. Cruz, but just to remind you, this is just for the ICMUDs. The regular standard signage, which is pretty long, still applies in any other part of the city. Again, I think that is a question that council is going to have to ask themselves, right? Do we want large signs, flashy? The big ones are the schools. They love the big scrolling signage. Some would argue, some other residents would say, well, the lights are too bright. it's a nuisance. So I think there's a balance that needs to be reached. And again, the point being is that those are conversations that you have when you start rewriting the sign ordinance with the city, developers, residents, a much more extensive process than what I'm presenting to you tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question. Would we require a variance in that case? Or how would we go about that if we were to maybe get those signs?
Mayor, so.
Maybe in that section,
Yeah.
would the city require a variance?
I don't, maybe that's a
Or
question
how would
for
that-
Jim. I think that if you pass it, this is what needs to.
That's-
Yes, ma'am. There are some variances in some cases, maybe a variance in the height, Jim, I don't know.
So, according to the new rule, it says that there should be no flashing signs. Now, does the city require a variance to put maybe a flashing sign for informative purposes?
The city itself, the city was going to
Yes.
do that? No, the city, no, it doesn't.
So we can go about it, we could put our flashing signs for informational purposes, but kind of go against our,
In the area where this.
yes. So how would that?
No,
how
you
would
probably
that-
couldn't. No, the answer is, no, you probably couldn't. I mean, the way, if the ordinance is enacted, then it applies to all signage, including the cities, whether or not the city owns it.
So there could never be a sign there?
Yeah, you simply
A
couldn't do that.
flashing sign?
Correct. In that area.
Yeah.
It limits us.
Right.
Mr. Cruz, I think it does, right? So again, I think this is a conversation that we should have when the time comes, because again, it is what the, as an example, some cities have really conservative sign regulations that limit signage to a very small sign, right? And again, it speaks to the aesthetics, the beautification of the streets and whatnot. Some cities have, hey, it's Las Vegas, big old signs, neon flashing, right? So I think there's, again, my estimation is that there should be a balance, but for the city to, for you to take a look at it and review it, and with resident input, developer input, business input, to see where is that happy medium. I think in this case, though, Mr. Cruz, again, can we put up the sign of the pole signs? Without offending anyone, I think we could probably all agree that that is not necessarily the best looking signs that we want on our streets, right? Compared to the monument signs. And again, from our point of view, or from my point of view, Socorro Logistics seems to be what the city's investing a lot of resources and money in, and so I personally, as a professional, would rather see the other signs as opposed to having this type of sign. And then not only, remember this, it's not only the pole sign, but it's the volume of signs. So there's, I believe, on the frontage of North Loop and Nuevo Hueco Tanks, I believe there's 12 parcels. And so each parcel would have a sign that could be this, right? That loses the aesthetics of the buildings or the landscaping or the street trees or whatnot.
So where I was going with this is, it is a major street for us. So it had come about that we had talked about having informational signs as to maybe events that are happening in the city council days, and so forth. And since that's one of our major streets, we could have a informational sign there. But unfortunately, if we pass this, I don't see how we could have that.
That is correct, Mayor. Although, again, keep in mind, I think on that major street, you do have other parcels that are commercial, essentially on the other side of the street, right, where the Wings Daddy's going. So those areas would still have.
We could still do it in that area?
Yes, ma'am. And, I again, not knowing the specifics of what the city's intent is or the sign or the location, I think there's other questions about the public right-of-way, where you're gonna put it, the size of it, that's separate from this, right? Just in general, like, what does the sign look like, how high is it? That, that could be part of the conversations, I think, that when you have the comprehensive review of the whole sign
Oh,
ordinance.
Mr. Garcia is next. Mr. Garcia?
So, I got 3 points I want to make, so bear with me. So, when we talk about the flashing signs, Ms. Cruz did mention during the meeting, like Idea Charter School, their sign is very flashy.
Yes, sir.
And in the dark, it's very blinding in a winding road. Would that somehow help with that problem?
In this area, again, just specific to the mixed-use areas, yes, sir, it would help with that.
Okay, so my second point, Ms. Colon was there. Do you remember the TML we went to Balmaray? One of the last ones we went to, I mean, years back. They talked about light pollution.
Yes, correct.
And that's the thing that we went to in Balmaray, and this is where we're talking about it now. So we're talking about Vegas lights, but then we can't be ignorant to where it's light pollution in a sort of agricultural city. So that's my next point, because we're talking about signs that are better or more, but we still have a lot of residents that would like to keep the agriculture or look at the stars. And so that's my second point. Now, when the city brings in Apache signs that for the 4th of July, for all that, they flash. Now, would those become illegal?
No, those are not illegal because they're temporary.
Okay,
Correct.
okay,
So those are still, those would still be allowed.
okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Villalobos?
So, and Victor, I'm gonna need your help on this one. Some months back, we brought an item, which is, I think Clearview is going to be our partner, or we're looking into it still. But they're bringing those signs that we need in the city, of course, to promote our events, things that are happening in the city, et cetera, et cetera. Could we have a mix of both and not just eliminate one or the other? Number one, that's one of my questions. The other one, how is those signs going to, how is this, passing this ordinance going to affect our future with Clearview? Is that who we, Victor?
So Clear Channel is
Oh,
the
Clear-
advertising
Clear-
agency in the county. They can put advertising signs on city's property, but it will not be the city's property. It will still stay with Clear Channel.
So will this, Mr. Gallinar, will
Yes,
this, passing this ordinance, will this eliminate Clear Channel from putting these signs that we're, wanting out there?
So, Ms. Colombia Lobos, again, I don't have specific information on what you're speaking of. And so I don't know, right? I can't answer the question because I don't have enough information on the Clear Channel side. But again, if you were to pass this on that area of Socorro Road, on Nuevo Waco and North Loop, specifically now, right? Because it's the only one that we know of, the mixed-use district. It would, essentially what you would have, ma'am, are the monument signs that I showed you. And then I will also note, those monument signs were taken up on East Lake, right? Where the extent of Nuevo Waco extends north of I-10. And those are the regulations that were part of that East Lake commercial development. And so it's not Dallas, it's not San Marcos, it's here, right? Where you start to see those types of signs. And again, it just makes for a better, improved aesthetics of like the curb appeal for a commercial district, for a commercial area.
So I'm wondering how important this is to pass tonight, and more to have staff come back and let us know how it's going to affect. I mean, I'm very interested in how Clear Channel is going to, this is going to affect our Clear Channel future partnership.
Yes, ma'am. Happy, again, this is your call, Mayor and Council, right? This is a staff recommendation. If you want to postpone it for 2 weeks, we could certainly bring it back. And I don't know the specifics of what Clear Channel is intending. And let me ask a question. Is Clear Channel intending to come to this specific area?
There was several avenues identified, including Nuevo Hueco, Socorro, Alameda, and Horizon, and it's a pole sign. It's the electronic billboards
Okay, so
that are
it's a
seen
pole
from the
sign, right?
freeways.
So then, if that's the intent of the mayor and council, Ms. Colombia Lobos, then don't pass this. Then just continue with all the different pole signs that you have.
I think it would be wise to just, if we don't have to, wait and find out what Clear Channel, if we can ask staff to go back and look into how this is going to affect, and before we move forward with it.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Cruz?
So all the ordinance does is it provides parameters and guidelines for a uniform sign to be placed on the industrial area here that we're looking at on East Lake. I get it, that's good, that's
Yes, sir.
perfect. All we have to do tonight, if we want to table the item, we'll table it. We'll have Mr. Gainar go back and put in the, or amend the zoning, chapter 46 to state, these are the standards. Socorro, City of Socorro, you are the exception. Whether we decide to put signs up, that's up to us. But Socorro, the city, would be the exception. All these rules apply to everybody else but the city. That's all we have to do. And that keeps our doors open. And it also creates a standard for the city also, whatever the standard that we create.
Well, I don't know, I mean, I just don't recommend that, because what would make us have absolute power? Everybody has to comply except us.
It's not that we're not complying, we would comply, but the thing is that if you vote on a zoning article like this, it automatically eliminates the city's right in our right-of-way to place any type of signage that's informative with the flashing lights and all that. That's what we're gonna do. We're canceling that tonight, should this zoning ordinance pass. What I'm recommending is language that states in the future, dependent on what that is, depending on what Clear Channel comes and they decide, hey, this would look really nice, we can put this up here if you want to inform all of your residents of anything that happens. I think that the city should have the ultimate authority in deciding what type of signage should be placed, depending on the area as well. If it's going to be in the historical district, if it's going to be over in the industrial side, we should be able to have the authority to say, this looks nice, this looks clean, it doesn't obstruct anything, it doesn't produce enough light pollution to cause any harm. I think we should have the say in that, and that can all be clearly stated in here. It's just finding the right language, right?
Yes, sir. Again, it's happy to postpone it, bring back, or review it, or maybe bring back some language, maybe not. Maybe I'll present, I don't know.
But
Again,
I
don't
wanna
know
hear
the
from the
parameters.
attorney.
I don't know the parameters of what Clear Channel is intending. Separate from that, again, that's why we're having the conversation of why you have sign ordinances that you take a little bit more time to review. Because again, with Clear Channel, are they putting it on public right away? They can't obstruct the sidewalk. Are they putting it in someone's private property? And if they are who's giving them permission? There's all sorts of other things separate from this that we have to consider with Clear Channel as when it comes to the type of sign that you want to put in.
Mr. Reyes?
I think the issue is that they keep calling Mr. Gallinar, asking him what they want, and they want it yesterday. Would it be something that we can do? You get with Victor, since Victor was gonna bring back the idea of what we wanted and bring it back next meeting, and not postpone it till later on, because again, like you said, they're calling, and the last thing we want is those signs that we already have. So,
Mr. Garcia?
What is El Paso doing? Because we follow them a lot. I want to know what El Paso compared to this is doing, because the reason I ask is El Paso has billboards everywhere on I-10, and I do see something like the one in the Civic Center is huge. So what is El Paso's?
So El Paso, I haven't reviewed theirs in a long time, but I used to work there, and so I could tell you that El Paso typically has a very liberal flex sign ordinance. I mean, again, that's why you see the type of signs that you see along I-10. Now, the only other point I'll make is that it's also context. Signs should be within the context of the environment, right? So the reason that you see the big sign on the Civic Center, it's a downtown. To Mr. Cruz's point, you wouldn't see that type of sign along Socorro Road. It just doesn't fix with the environment, right?
Point I'm trying to get to.
Yes.
Because I think it'd be much better if we do that than then handcuff ourselves to this and say, okay, then if it's on the historic district, this is the way it looks.
Yes,
Just
sir.
like we do now. If it's an I-10, this is the way it should look, and if it's on the right-of-way, this is the way it should look. I think better options would be better.
Oh, I think she was. Or do you have an answer?
Correct, so I know Victor wants to say something and maybe show something to you all. One, and then two, this again is only for Nuevo Hueco Tanks Road. So once you go up to East Lake, there's a certain model, and then we're saying that over here we can just kind of do whatever we want if we don't pass something that's, right? So it's only that section
Yeah,
that we're talking about. We're not talking about the whole city.
Oh, 1 second, please.
Go ahead, Victor.
So passing the ordinance doesn't restrict us from putting the sign, it's just the type of sign. So we can always put the sign, just not on Nuevo Hueco. You still have North Loop, Horizon, Alameda, and Socorro Road. So if this does get approved, I don't think it would put us in a position to shoot ourselves in the foot, honestly. There are different types of signs that we can work with, and other cities have done that would comply with this.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Villalobos?
Thank you, Victor, for that. And thank you for clarifying that it's just Nuevo Hueco tanks.
Yes.
But
Yes, ma'am.
I believe we do have, that's going to be one of our targeted areas for Clear Channel, if I'm not mistaken.
So we had set Nuevo Hueco and North Loop.
So,
You could put it
right,
on the other
but-
side of North Loop, on the
Okay.
other side of the
Okay.
So
of the
when you're at the
property.
light, you can put it on that other side.
and when you're changing this is from this, let's say we pass it tonight.
Yes, ma'am.
It would be from this point forward, and they don't have to go back, the other approvals that you already have for Nuevo Hueco tanks to change it.
No, ma'am. So just to clarify, two things. One, it would get, if you all choose to approve it tonight, it goes into effect tomorrow. And then number two, I don't have, this is why it's a little bit of an urgency. Because the minute I get an application, the applicant is then vested, right? Then we have to go with whatever the regulations are at the time. Currently, we don't have any, so then you default to the C1 and C2. We currently don't have any applications, but we do have inquiries, people calling, designers, architects saying, hey, I'm getting ready to design this building. What's the setbacks? What's the parking? What's the signage? What's the landscaping? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Cruz?
No, I wanted to make a motion to approve.
Second.
Ruben Reyes,
Yes.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colombia Lopez.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. And then finally, again, this is, I think that we will bring back the complete sign ordinance and look at all these sort of things, because these are important conversations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate
I'm sorry, Mr. Hernandez, can you repeat? I didn't hear.
Yes, I was just saying, again, not to belabor a point, part of our to-do list for 2023 is to revise all our ordinances, signage, to take all these things into consideration.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Moving on to Grants Department, item number 14, discussion and action to approve the submission of a grant application to the Texas Historical Commission's fiscal year 2023 Certified Local Government Program for the Rio Vista Farm Rehabilitation Project. There is a $30,000 match requirement.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So the City of Socorro in the past has supported the full rehabilitation of the Rio Vista Farm from its own general funds and special funds. We've applied for and received grant funding in the past for 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021. This year, we're requesting the $30,000 in grant funding to offset the cost of the development of bid and construction documents at the Rio Vista Farm. With the application, as you mentioned, there is a 1-to-1 matching requirement, so the city must commit to a $30,000 local match as well.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Ruben Reyes.
Yes.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colombia Lopez.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item number 15, discussion and action to enter into a memorandum of understanding MOU with El Paso MHMR DBA Emergence Health Network, EHN, to implement the Clinician Officer Remote Evaluation Core Initiative as part of the Crisis Intervention Team CIT program in the Socorro Police Department.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Oh, sorry. So the core program, the MOU required for the core program, it involves the use of HIPAA-approved technology platforms to the CIT units we have here with Socorro PD on the field for the purpose of conducting assessments in the event of a low acuity mental health encounter. This program makes qualified clinicians and specialists available remotely via tablets/iPads to the CIT units on the field. I also want to clarify that at the moment, there's no financial obligation or exchange of funds implied through this MOU.
Ruben Reyes.
Yes.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 16, discussion and action to approve the proposed updates to the spending framework for the City of Socorro's allocation under the Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund, CLFRF, approved in the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA.
So this would just be a recategorization of funds. So with this, we would reduce the GO code 05521, which is support activities, by 10,764, and we would increase GO code 05516, which is dues and subscriptions, by 10,764. There's no increase or decrease in the total project budget for this project. It would just be the reallocation of the funds.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Ruben Reyes.
Yes.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 17, discussion and action to approve the submittal of a letter to TxDOT requesting safety improvements on Socorro Road in order to ensure the safety of pedestrians and bicyclists visiting our historic Mission Trail.
Motion to approve?
Second.
We would request that TxDOT would consider proposing pedestrian and bicycling safety improvements to Socorro Road via their Highway Safety Improvement Program. In your backup, there is the written letter as well as signatures by the business owners along the Socorro Mission Trail. With the Highway Safety Improvement Program, it consists of three main components: the Strategic Highway Safety Plan, the State HSIP, or Program of Highway Safety Improvement Projects, and the Railway Highway Crossing Program. In addition to those three, some states also have a high-risk rural road program if they have an increasing fatality rate on rural roads. At the moment, I don't know if Texas qualifies under that fourth one, but if we send this letter, we would further investigate it if they did.
Ms. Villalobos?
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
Great. I love it. So once, let's say it gets approved, the vision is that TxDOT comes in and widens Socorro Road because it's very narrow.
Yes, it would be widening as well as including a better suited sidewalk and bicycling path. I feel like at the moment Socorro Road, it's on the sides of the road is pure dirt, and even vehicular driving, it's difficult. You have blind spots. So they would widen as well as bring in more adequate sidewalk improvements.
Ms. Rodarte?
I am not sure about the widening though, because there's not enough right away on Socorro Road.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I do believe there's gonna be lighting, crosswalks, lots of improvements. They've already changed the speed limit. TxDOT was requesting us to send that letter in order to move that project, but the widening is just not something that's feasible because there's not enough right away and the utility relocation. Right, that's my understanding from meetings that we've had in the past.
Okay. My apologies.
Sorry.
I was mistaken.
I'm sorry. So I'm puzzled as to how we're gonna make it safe for these bicycle riders.
Because there's going to be more lighting, crosswalks, signalization for the people that are walking. And I think that we've gone to several meetings where they've shown us exactly what that's going to look like.
So they be riding bicycles in a car behind them?
No, so I don't have the actual plan that TxDOT pitched to us. I don't know if Victor can find it for us real
No.
quick. But there are improvements, and they're a lot better than what we have right now. The recommendation from TxDOT was that they needed a letter from the city of Socorro to make this happen a bit quicker. And that's why we're here in front. I don't know if Victor can find that. Mr. Magician.
Mayor, may I?
1 second, I think he was responding. Victor was responding.
Oh, no, go ahead, discuss.
Okay. Mr. Cruz?
So the letter that we see here in front of us is the one that TxDOT needs from us in order to move forward. If you guys remember, it was a while back, TxDOT was in here and they put up on the map there, they showed us pedestrian crossing with the flashing lights and all that stuff. If I'm not mistaken, those are some of the improvements that are gonna be made to Socorro Road. And if you guys haven't already seen, they've already decreased the speed limit on Socorro Road. But this one right here doesn't speak about or talk about any widening or anything like that. If they decide to put a bicycle path, they're very limited to the areas on Socorro Road where a bicycle can actually ride alongside the road with a vehicle, you know. But I don't know if the language here sits well with everybody as far as the request for this to move things along. I get it. It's already in the works, but I don't know too much about the bicycle path there, to be honest.
Well, like as I mentioned earlier, so this letter was written by Ms. Marty Loya. We could always go back and restructure the language to, because I do believe at the moment like it is a bit confusing with that aspect. So we could go back and just reword it to be a little more precise and clear.
So this was not written by the city?
It was written by Ms. Marty Loya, sponsored by the city.
Correct, so I think Ms. Loya was pitching, we talked to TxDOT, and TxDOT said they need a letter kind of speaking in behalf of Marty Loya, and I guess for it to carry weight. And I do apologize, it's just that Alejandra had an emergency that she can't be here tonight and has a little bit of more information, but I do believe that we should table this item because we don't have the correct information.
Motion to table?
Second.
Oh, we had another,
Oh, I'm sorry.
sorry. Mr. Reyes?
I was just gonna ask you, by any chance in the plan, they had sidewalks?
I can't tell you yes or no, I can't remember the presentation that was given to us.
And just another question, anything that they do to Socorro Road, it's a win. Anything, more lights, if they go
Crosswalk,
and they
yeah.
stripe the road, it's win.
I do feel we need to postpone the item.
Ms. Villalobos?
And that was my question, are we here just to approve, the letter? Is that what
Correct. At this time, I just feel we don't have enough information because Alejandra and I wasn't in the conversations with Marty Loya. So I want to give Alejandra the opportunity to tell us what the background story is to this letter.
Was there a motion?
You already made a motion to
Okay.
postpone.
Oh, motion to postpone, yes.
Next
Motion
council
to
meeting,
postpone
December
till
1st. Well,
next meeting. And hopefully Ms. Alejandra's here for that.
yes.
Ruben Reyes?
Yes.
Cesar Nevares?
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia?
Aye.
Rudy Cruz?
Yes.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos?
Yes.
Item number 18, discussion and action to approve a sub-recipient agreement with the El Paso Collaborative for Economic Development, EPCCED, affiliate of Project Vida, Inc., for the administration of small business recovery grants to address the negative economic impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Okay, so the City of Socorro issued RFP 2211, September 2022. Two viable proposals were received by the deadline, reviewed, and scored by a scoring committee. On November 3rd, City Council awarded RFP 2211 to the El Paso Collaborative for Economic Development, or EPCCED, an affiliate of Project Vida. So at this moment, City Council's approval is required to approve the subrecipient agreement with EPCCED, included in the backup. The agreement details all contract terms as well as federal requirements as part of the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funding. Among other responsibilities, EPCCD will also administer $250,000 in small business recovery grants to eligible small businesses in Socorro per the guidelines attached. And that is all I have for the moment.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Ruben Reyes.
Yes.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colombia Lopez.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to planning and zoning, item number 19, discussion and action to approve resolution 723, approving a final plat for Rancho Resendes subdivision being tract 4C15A, block 3, Socorro Grant, Socorro, Texas.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to discussion?
Mayor and Council, good evening. Carlos Gallinar, Planning and Zoning Department. This is a final plat. You did see the preliminary plat back in September. As part of the introduction or the background information, again, this is for approval of final subdivision located at 911 Sparks Road, not too far from here. It's about 1.21 acres in size. It is an R1 single-family residential, and essentially what this is to do a lot split. It's my understanding that the property owner is looking to sell part of the property. There's currently 2 homes there, so they're going to split it in half, and they're going to sell one portion and then keep the other portion as well. And again, you saw the preliminary plat back in September. Staff and P&Z are recommending approval. Here's the location map. Next slide, please. Here's the zoning map. So again, it's R1. Here are the pictures of the property. So because this was constructed before there were subdivision regulations, there's 2 primary structures on the lot, on one lot. So by splitting it, they're essentially going to have one house on one lot and then the other house on the other lot. Here's the parcel, and it is about, as I mentioned, 1.2 acres, so it's fairly large size parcel. Here's the preliminary plat that you approved, and that hyphenated line shows where the subdivision would be, what the 2 lots would be subdivided. And then here's the, should say final plat. And that's what you're approving today, the final plat.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Ruben Reyes.
Yes.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colombia Lopez.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Thank you. Moving on to city manager, item number 21, discussion and action to approve the purchase of a 2022 Chevrolet Silverado 3500 HD 4-wheel drive crew cab for mechanic work truck from Rudolph Chevrolet LLC in the amount of $71,348. Do I read them all at the same time? Yes, okay. Item number 22, do we have to make a motion for that? Okay. Item number 22, discussion and action to approve the purchase of one 2023 Ford F-150 truck for maintenance department from Casa Ford in the amount of $37,825. Item number 23, discussion and action to approve the purchase of 2 2023 Ford F-150 trucks for Parks and Public Works from Casa Ford in the amount of $90,830. Item number 24, discussion and action to approve the purchase of 2 2023 Ford F-150 trucks 4x4 for animal control from Casa Ford in the amount of $85,680. No, I already read that.
I'm sorry. Did you? Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
so 21 through 24.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. During our budget workshop and approval of our budget, the next 4 items were approved and budgeted for. Item 21 is requesting approval to purchase of a 2022 Chevrolet Silverado 350 HD four-wheel drive crew cab for mechanic work truck. From Rudolph Chevrolet in the amount of $71,000. This funding will come out of capital. We had budgeted $100,000. It's around $30,000 less. The procurement was met through Region 19 contract 20-7355. Item 22 is requesting approval to purchase a 2023 Ford F-150 single cab, non-4x4 truck for maintenance department from Casa Ford in the amount of $37,825. This funding will come out of the general fund. We had budgeted $50,000, so it's around $12,000 less. Procurement was met through Region 19 contract 19-7325. Item 23 is requesting approval to purchase two 2023 Ford F-150 crew cabs, non-4x4 trucks for Parks and Public Works from Casa Ford in the amount of $90,830. This funding will come out of CO's 2019, total of $45,415, and general fund $45,415. We had allocated $105,000 for 4 trucks. Unfortunately, there are no manual trucks under production at this time, and they don't know when they would start that production, leaving us with the option only to purchase 2 vehicles this fiscal year with the amount that we had allocated. The procurement was met through Region 19, contract number 19-7325. And then item 24 talks about requesting approval to purchase 2 2023 Ford F-150 single cab 4x4 trucks for animal control from Casa Ford in the amount of $85,680. This funding will come out of the general fund. We had allocated $168,000 for 3 trucks. After the purchase of these 2 trucks, we will reassess inventory and determine if there is a need for another vehicle. Procurement was met through Region 19 contract 19-7325. I don't know if you all have any questions.
Mr. Reyes?
Is there a reason why we're getting just a single cabs and not extended? I know that
For which one?
for Public Works.
Correct, so for Public Works, the reason that we need the crew cab is because we drive 4 people in 1 truck. So it's a crew that goes out to the area where they're gonna go clean, and 4 of them drive the same vehicle. That's how we maximize how we can use the vehicles,
No, but you said we're buying single cabs, right?
not for Public Works.
Okay, just for,
Correct, the single cab is for maintenance.
Yeah.
Right, so we have 2 maintenances. We do have 1 truck right now. The other maintenance person needs a vehicle. Right now, they are borrowing 1 from Public Works. And they don't need, so the maintenance person does not need a crew cab. But the Public Works, because 4 of them do ride on the same vehicle. Yes? Oh.
I like the extended cabs, just in case they have to be, I don't know, I'm just saying, maybe maintenance gets the extended cab, and they're like, okay, we're gonna, instead of getting them a truck, we're gonna get them a little car, and then we can get the truck to Public Works. But that's just, yeah.
Maintenance, throw stuff in the back.
Any other questions?
Ruben Reyes,
Yes.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 25, discussion and action on calling a regular city council meeting for December pursuant to section 3.07 of the Socorro City Charter.
So, good evening, Mayor and Council. Our city charter does require us to call for a meeting, for 1 meeting in December. Staff will be recommending either December 1st or December 15th. And that's just because the holidays, I don't know if anyone's going out of town or if anything is. I have talked to staff to see if we're okay with the December 1st meeting. And we all are okay with that. And in case something else comes up, we can always call a special meeting if we need to.
I agree with December 1st. Anybody have any objections? Any comments? Ms. Villalobos?
Our Winterfest is what day?
December 2nd.
The next day.
I don't know if it makes a difference. It's, what do you guys think?
December 1st?
Desvelado,
That
si
works
es
for me.
antes.
I don't know, my huesos can take
I
2
agree.
nights, but we'll see.
Motion to approve?
Motion to approve meeting in December
December
1st.
Second. Second.
Ruben Reyes.
Yes.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 26, discussion and action on appointing a new mayor pro tem pursuant to section 3.03 of the Socorro City Charter.
So every year, our charter requires us to appoint a mayor pro temp. So here we are. I don't know if you all want to. Our current mayor pro temp is Mr. Ruben Reyes. It's up to you if you guys want to appoint.
I make a motion to appoint Mr. Garcia as mayor pro tem.
I agree with Mr. Nevares. Mr. Garcia.
Do we have a second?
Ruben Reyes.
Yes.
Cesar Nevares.
What did he say?
Say yes.
He's all sad.
You stabbed him in the heart.
I was trying to see who did the second.
Rudy did.
Rudy.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 27, discussion and action to approve CEA group work authorizations 1 and 3 and authorize city manager or her designee to execute work authorizations.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is the other engineering firm, CA. We're approving work order authorization. The engineer will perform program management and engineering services generally described as in accordance with the project description attached here too and made it part of the work authorization. The maximum amount payable under this work authorization is $796,591. Work authorization number 3 is the engineer will perform construction engineering inspection services for the Rio Vista Road and Bovey Road Bridge replacement projects described as in accordance with the project description attached here too. And this work authorization should not exceed $572,210. Do you all have any questions?
Ms. Villalobos?
Based on our last engineer firm and this one, on the project's cost, how do you, I mean, with, not off my head what they were charging for our projects, but these projects here that are coming up, are they comparable, higher, lower?
I think the pricing is higher. We have negotiated with them to kind of bring them down, but just because of the material cost has gone up. However, we are already in talks with the MPO to see if we need to request further funding to assist us with the changing. And remember, we have 3 firms on board, meaning it gives us the opportunity to, just see what pricing.
Shop.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Ruben Reyes.
Yes.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Motion to go to the executive?
Second.
Ruben Reyes.
Yes.
Aye.
Rudy Cruz.
Yes.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
It is 7:40 PM. We are now in regular session. Do we have a motion to delete items 30 through 32?
Motion to delete items 30 to 32.
Second.
Ruben Reyes,
Yes.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia,
Aye.
Rudy Cruz,
Yes.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 33, discussion and action regarding Texas Gas Service Company, a division of One Gas, Inc., application to increase gas utility rates, RRC matter number OS-22-00009896, 551.071.
Motion to follow our attorney's advice of,
Move to deny.
motion to deny.
Second.
Ruben Reyes,
Yes.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia,
Aye.
Rudy Cruz,
Yes.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Meeting adjourns.
Ruben
I'm sorry.
Reyes,
Yes.
Cesar Nevares,
Call it first.
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia,
Aye.
Rudy Cruz,
Yes.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Meeting adjourns at 7:41 PM. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Goodbye.